Hey guys, so many of you asked me after my last Gorgon making video, which Gorgon schematics should I craft, which perks should I log? Today, I will answer exactly that. How to maximize profits, avoiding crafting unsaleable junk, and going for the best perks that are potentially going to give you biz. Let's dive right in. First, you need to understand one key concept: generic versus non-generic crafts. Generic crafts happen when perk pools are really small, like earrings. Almost every earring rolls with refreshing toes, refreshing or healing heart. That makes the market super competitive and everyone undercuts each other. Non-generic crafts, on the other hand, usually happen on armor pieces with weapon perks. These rolls are much rarer, so you wouldn't see duplicates on the market, meaning you can dictate the price instead of being forced to undercut. So the rule of thumb is the following. Generic means high competition and low profits. Non-generic means unique items and higher profits. So let's answer the most asked question. Which schematics should you craft with? As a general rule of thumb, I value armor crafts above jewelry and weapon crafts. And the reason is simple. You're less likely to have generic crafts with armor pieces. Okay, but which armor pieces should you roll? Honestly, anything but chests are good. The reason why I don't recommend chest crafting is the following. AGS hasn't really done the math right when they prepared the recipes for the schematic and Gorgonite inductor crafts. Let's take a heavy chest as an example. It takes 260 prismatics in total to craft a heavy chest with a Gorgonite inductor. The number is 32 prismatics if you roll with schematics. In other words, instead of inducting a heavy chest piece, you can do 8 schematic rolls. If we do the same math, let's say for a heavy gloves, it takes 150 prismatics to inductor, but only 8 prismatics are needed to craft with schematics. The ratio here is almost 20. Due to these unbalanced ratios, people tend to induct chess pieces while rolling other pieces with schematics. So in short, do not go for chess crafts. Does this mean that you should always just go for the cheapest crafts like gloves and boots? Absolutely no. Let's go a bit deeper. You should from time to time analyze the market and identify the most contested markets. A good example for this is the light and heavy gloves market on Nisa. Since the gloves are the cheapest crafts, everyone ends up crafting gloves. While this is not a problem if you get non-generic rolls, it's a big problem for generic rolls. Look at the Enchanted World Refreshing Trust Conditioning market on Nisa for light gloves and you will understand what I mean. Due to this, I strongly recommend you guys to roll head and legs pieces as well. But the key point here is to check the market on your server for similar generic rolls, like the one I just mentioned, and then craft pieces that are not very common in the market so that you can fill a market gap. I'm sorry about the economics 101 lesson so far, but I believe it is important to understand the logic behind these decisions so that you can apply these approaches in the future regardless of what changes AGS makes to crafting. Let's now talk about the perks you should be locking. Let's start with the obvious one. You go Enchanted Ward for armor pieces. You can try a couple weapon perk items, but keep in mind that the chance of rolling Enchanted Ward when you roll with a weapon perk is close to 0. You might feel the urge to roll omnidirectional evade or flurry items if there are none on the market, and someone might buy one out of desperation even without Enchanted Ward, but this market is really small, so do not overcommit. You can try a couple of weapon perks that would sell in PvP instead, because most items are going to roll with Hasted Vigor, and Hasted Vigor is somewhat okay for PvP. Some example weapon perks in this case would be Empowering Fireball, Refreshing Pillar, Scream, Relentless Freedom, Eruption of Flail, which is kind of popular nowadays, Fortifying Sacred Ground, Purity of Light perks, for example. Again, these perks will not have a too big market, as most people will just filter for Enchanted Ward and will never see those items that you crafted with Hasted Vigor. But there might be a couple people who are interested in Hasted Vigor. But even then, please do not commit or overcommit here either. Okay, for jewelry, I would recommend rolling health on amulets and hearty on rings. But please check the prices of generic failed crafts on your server when you do that. For example, check the price of the cheapest Hearty Sacred Refreshing Ring. That's the That's one of the most common ring rolls. If it's as low as 2k gold, it's a good indicator that that particular market is very competitive and people are undercutting each other. And you might want to stay away from it. You can roll Shirking Empower or Protection perks on Amulets, especially Strike Protection for Worm and Gorgon enjoyers, or Trust/Flame Protection for PvP players. For Ring, you can consider Healing Breeze. You may also do Empowered Clean, Mortal Empowerment, and Invigorated Punishment, but these three are high risk, high reward crafts. Do not roll them if you do not have a lot of capital. Failed crafts of these rolls will not sell and you will end up salvaging them. For E-Ring, your best bet is to roll Fortifying Toes or Healthy Toes. But keep in mind that E-Ring has the smallest perk pool of all schematics and you will always have generic rolls. Also, another thing to mention is that Endless Thirst is kind of really popular nowadays, so people might not be going for a crafted E-Ring either. The weapons are a whole different story. Unfortunately, AGS made the chance of rolling Distained Infliction so high, which is a perk that is not really sought after in PvP, except for muskets. Unfortunately, the numbers that you see on newer database are wrong. If we check the chance of rolling Distained Infliction on newer database, it shows 10%. But the real numbers that were mined show that the chance is as high as 33%. Assuming that there are two slots this perk can roll in, when you look at another perk, the chance of not rolling Distained Infliction is as low as 40%. You are very unlikely to craft these PvP items with schematics because of this reason. This doesn't mean that you won't make any money with weapon schematics, but it is limited. In general, I would focus on crafting PvE items rather than PvP items with weapon schematics. There are a couple of weapons where you can lock perks that are going to block the possibility of rolling Disdain Infliction, and those two perks are Alacrity's Punishment and Alternating Enhancement. I will get to the weapons these two perks are good for in a bit, but don't forget that you are very unlikely to roll a Beast PvP weapon, as exclusive PvP perks do not roll randomly, and you have to lock them. And for most of the best in slot PvP weapons, you have to have two or in some cases three of those perks, right? And for example, if you lock Alternating Enhancement, you will never get Penetrating Backstab or Penetrating the Empowered, which are very strong PvP perks. Here are some of the rolls I have made money with. For Spear, Enfeebling Skewer and Attunement rolls are decent for PvE rolls. You can do some Alternating Enhancements rolls, as this perk is okay in both PvE and PvP spears. For fire stuff, Alacrity's Punishment and Attunement are somewhat decent perks to lock. You may roll some decent but not best fire stuffs with Alacrity's Punishment. You may roll decent Attunement fire stuff for both PvE and PvP. For Void Gauntlet, Alacrity's Punishment is an okay roll for Void Blades, but after the nerf to Void Blade, I wouldn't overcommit to these rolls. For Musket, Attunement is your best bet. You can actually roll Beast Muskets, as Disdained is considered Beast in PvP for Muskets. But please check the Musket market on your server before crafting. People might be already on that trade. For Rapier, locking Omnidirectional Evade and Keen Thunder perks can give you some beast rolls for PvE speedrunners. They usually look for Disdain Infliction and Refreshing Move next to those two weapon perks. For Hatchet, you may get some decent PvE hatchets when you lock Keen Berserk perk. For Flail, Alternating Enhancement is a pretty decent perk for Flails. In fact, you can craft some really nice PvP flails when you are looking Alternating Enhancement. As you won't actually get Disdain Infliction, because Alternating Enhancement and Disdain Infliction perks are in the same perk bucket. Round Shield has made me decent amount of gold as well, and I like to lock Fortifying Shield Rush perk when I do Round Shield crafts. When I do Round Shield crafting. But guys, a small warning: Season 10 update is in like 5 to 6 weeks from now, and the update might make the crafts kind of worthless. So please do not mass craft too many items. Craft low amounts, but do it regularly to replenish your stocks. But don't worry, there is still money to be made. I made more than 2 million in just profits in the last week alone. If you are new to crafting and you are struggling with pricing your items, feel free to join my Discord server and post your crafts. We have a price check channel where I try to have tens of people on a daily basis. Our Discord server reached 1600 members in a short period of time, so do not miss out. I will leave the link in the description. Apart from that, you can have me do a price check for you when I'm live on Twitch as well. Well, that's it from me, guys. Save as much gold as you can before season 10.